A man's number one desire is respect. A woman's number one need is love. And so because I am acting unloving, she will respond disrespectful. And because I feel disrespected, I would respond unloving. And he talks about this idea of the crazy cycle, right? I'm recognizing that, because I'm saying to her, you disrespectful. But I'm saying she's disrespectful, but she's disrespectful because I am also unloving to her.
You are here. Welcome to the Purpose Finder podcast. This is the show where we uncover why you are truly here, and more importantly, how to make it your reality. My father, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, said the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but life without purpose. And research further shows that people with a strong sense of purpose are 2.4 times more likely to feel fulfilled. Each week, I sit down with extraordinary guests, entrepreneurs, artists, thought leaders who are boldly living their why. We dive deep into their journeys, the struggles they've overcome, their breakthroughs, and the lessons that can help you do the same. I am your beautiful host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and we're about to explore the mindsets, tools, and strategies to help you live a life with purpose, passion, and legacy. Are you ready? Let's go and dive into the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another amazing, incredible episode of the Purpose Finder podcast, where our mission is simple: to inspire you to find and uncover your life's purpose and to live it out boldly every day with three things: meaning, fulfillment, and significance. Yes, we all crave belonging. No one wants to feel unfulfilled, and we are all searching, asking that big question: why in the world am I here? But I hope you allow your search to end today, right here on this podcast. I am your host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and today is a special episode. And I mean special, incredible episode, because I am sharing you with an incredible person. He happens to be the love of my life, my friend, my best friend, my person, my spouse, my lover. He's all of those things: my boyfriend, my man, my husband. Yes, I get to say all of it because today my husband is here as our special guest. You are going to get to hear so much about our story as we just came out of the month of love. And I wanted to make sure that he and I had the opportunity to share what our marriage has been as it pertains to purpose in partnership, purpose in love. So, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to my great husband, Mr. Destry Wilborn. My love, welcome.
Hello, my dear. You need to have one of those sound machines where you give applause, like, and the crowd goes wild. But yeah, we don't have that. It's funny. I was going to say, being on this side, I don't. First of all, I never knew how this thing functioned. I just knew you say, "Hey, I'm going to do some podcasts." Now I get to be on the other side. Now, normally I'm closed out, doors closed and locked. I don't know what's going on behind the steel curtain. But
normally you're helping me prep.
Yeah. Well, I was, as you were saying it, I didn't know what you meant by special. Sometimes special could mean, they special. So give them some grace. What do you mean special isn't like, he's just extraordinary? I wasn't really sure. We'll talk about it later. So it's cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is extraordinary. It's going to be a very entertaining episode because my husband is just that type of person and I love it. So I'm going to let him be him throughout the episode. However, he and I just wanted to kind of sit down and talk about what it's been for us as it pertains to purpose and love and how that's looked or how that has showed up in our relationship. People ask us a lot because he and I are both doing amazing things in the world, doing great things in the world. When he met me, I was on my purpose journey. When I met him, he was on his purpose journey. And so people ask us, like, how do you guys balance love and purpose-driven life and still manage to have a successful marriage up to this point? Like, how do you guys do it? And that question is very loaded. There's a very complex answer to that. And so we didn't want to, we wanted to be able to share from our heart what that has been for us. How do we align love and purpose and being together and still having a successful marriage while raising a family, while still doing what we were born to do in the world. So you're gonna get to hear a lot about us, but also about him. We wanted to pull back the curtains. We wanted to talk about the highs, the challenges, the lessons we've learned along the way. So, baby, let's talk about purpose and partnership. Would you share, first of all, with my audience, who you are, where you're from, what you do in the world, all that great stuff?
Well, my name's at the bottom of the screen, so I am Destry Wilborn, the husband to this lovely young lady right here. Um, you know, you've heard me talk about this before. Oftentimes, when people ask, what do you do? I try to respond in one or two ways, but generally, I'll ask them a question: are you asking me what do I do for a living, or what do I do for the world? Because sometimes, well, for some people, those things are the same. Sometimes they aren't. So, I am. I've been born and reared right here in the wonderful Windy City, Chicago. Been here essentially all my life, except for the few times I left to do some military things. But basically, been living in Chicago my entire life. As a profession now, for July would make 29 years. I've been with the Chicago Police Department. Of those 29 years, I guess 22 would be as a detective. So I've been a detective investigating a plethora of crime. Essentially spent the vast majority of my career in violent crimes. So that kind of gives me a different, I don't say different perspective of the world, but maybe the way I see things as a truth seeker may be a little bit different. But I also have an organization which is called Men of Purpose, Journey to Self-Discovery, where the mission is to teach, train, and motivate a band of young men to become successful, purposeful changes worldwide. I have a chapter here in Chicago, and we have another chapter in Burundi, which is a country in kind of Central East Africa, kind of sandwiched in between Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, the Congo. It's kind of sandwiched. It's a landlocked country, sandwiched in between those other countries, where we have a group of young boys that we mentor, and I guess we need to start adding to the list. I don't know what do you call it when you have a school? I don't know, but yeah, we recently launched a school in Burundi called the Baganda School of Excellence, where I believe the motto is transforming minds, transforming lives. So that's essentially, that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm being a daddy. Hope,
And a husband. Hello.
and a husband. Most days I hope a good one. I guarantee it wasn't always that way. But we're not gonna get into the dirt. We might get into the dirty of it. Yeah, that's what I do right now, boo.
Yes. So as you can hear, he does great things. And I met him doing a lot of these great things. I met him as a police detective. I met him as a chief transportation officer, he likes to call it, who founded this nonprofit for boys. And he likes to call himself the CTO versus the CEO, because usually CEOs you don't see. But CTOs, they are driving the bus of the organization. They are right in there with the children or with the people. And so he's right there with the boys when it comes to mentoring and living life on life with them. And I met him doing this. I met him this way already. And one of the things that I have discovered, that he and I have also discovered, is purpose isn't just about why you do what you do. It's also very much about who you do it with, who you do life with. And for us, of course, we got married, babe, later on in life, in his life and my life. I was already on the other side of 35. He was on the other side of 45. And so we were truly walking out our purpose journey, personally, individually. And then when it was time, when we got together, we also had to have that conversation. We had to have the conversation of vision and values, because we needed to make sure that, we would be a good fit. Apart from the fact that he wanted to make sure I was a good and kind human being, and vice versa, he also wanted to make sure that he would like me just for me, and not because, I am the daughter of late Dr. Miles Monroe, or because I have it all together, but are you a kind person? And that was important. But he also needed to make sure that, hey, this is what I do. Are you a good fit for what I do? Boys are around me all the time. And I remember he wanted to know that boys are in the house all the time, young boys. I'm with them all the time. Is that going to be something that you are going to shun away? Something that you're going to not appreciate? Or are you going to be a part of that? And so these were the conversations that he and I had. And honey, I want to get your perspective on what does it mean to be in alignment as pertains to purpose in relationship, whether you've had this thought before you and I got together or since we have been together. Like, what does it mean to be in a purpose aligned relationship to you?
I think maybe I look at it a couple of ways. But I remember very early on, when we were having our 2, 3, 4 hour conversations on the phone way back when, like we would just, like you would ask me questions, and it was like, but the question was like I think maybe most of our conversations weren't, like what's your favorite color, or what's your favorite food, like what are the things that you like to do. Like it wasn't that type of getting to know. It was questions more like, hey, like what are you doing with your life? Like where are you going? Where do you see yourself in the next 20 years? Like, what preparations are you making for your future? So it was there were questions grounded in not necessarily where you are, but where you're going. And so I think those are the things that matter, because oftentimes in relationships, people are talking about where they are. And this is where I am, and in this space right now, and I want you to be in this space with me. But the reality of it is, if there's no direction as far as where you're going, then I think maybe from a woman's perspective, it becomes very difficult to attach yourself to a wagon where you ain't sure where it's going, or at least for the person to have an idea. This is what I'm trying to do, or this is where I'm trying to go. And I think one of the things, here was the benefit that I had. The benefit that I had is that long before meeting you, I had done, the Dr. Miles Monroe mentorship program, right? I had been going to, the Kingdom Training seminars and the Global Leadership Summits and things like that. So there were certain values, even if I wasn't practically living them out, there were certain values that I knew, certain principles that I knew and understood. So what helped was early on, our language was the same, right? And so
that is what made me give him a second look, guys. Because before it was like, okay, what is this guy talking about? Typical Mac Daddy. Okay, I've heard that line before. Okay, why are you really?
You never heard these lines.
But then he started speaking my language from a value perspective. He started talking the language that I had grew up with, the language that I had made a part of my life, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is different, because I've dated guys before who, they may have been in the church, they may have had their own spiritual relationship, their own religious beliefs, but the language and the culture of who they were and how they were living still weren't the same. And this guy is talking, and I'm like, okay, yep, you've been around Dr. Miles Monroe, you've been around some kingdom teaching. I can hear it. So let's keep. So now my ears are open. Mind you, we've been communicating for some time at this point, a few months, but I wasn't really hearing him until we started getting into these type of deep conversations. And then I'm like, okay, keep talking. So keep talking, babe.
But and one of the things I remember your father saying all the time is that it was the idea of like, find your mission before you find your mate, right?
Oh,
because essentially he was saying, like, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you'll naturally bump into people who are on the same road with you. Say, but it becomes very difficult. You've found something, your purpose, your passion, your mission, your vision. Now you've already attached yourself to someone. Now you're trying to drag them into what it is you're doing. But the idea of, if I am on a particular road or a particular journey, yeah, I'm going to naturally bump into people who are on that same road as I am. And I think for you and I, that kind of happened, right? I was already doing my thing, but I also think, now I want to be clear, and I, honestly, you don't know the half of it. Like, I've dialed down, like I've dialed down 100-fold as to what I used to be, right? Meaning, like, there were kids in my house all the time. Like, all the boys I mentored, they would come by, and be perfectly honest, no one knows where I live, but oftentimes, like, I would never lock my basement door. And so then I would find out that there would have been boys at my house that, like, yeah, we've been here 3 days. I'm like, you've been here 3 days? Like, I didn't even know, because they just knew to come through the basement door. I would recognize they're here when I go to pour me a bowl of cereal. I'm like, man, yeah, my cereal's going. The time I'm working, I'm in and out. I might come in for a couple seconds, change some clothes, and I go, or come in, take a nap, get up, and go. So it was important for me, for you to be okay with other people being in our space, right?
Would it have made a difference in your decision making as far as whether you continued or not with me if I had outrightly said, no, I'm not okay with that?
Yeah, it would have. Because I'll be honest, I've had that before. Wonderful person, dated this young lady, wonderful. If you put her on paper, just great. She was like, no, I don't want people in my house. I don't want boys coming over. I'm not. And so even then I said, oh, okay, you cool with it. This ain't gonna ever work out. Because what you will be requiring from me is to stop being me. Now, I can pretend to not be me for a little while, but eventually that is going to cause contention between you and I. Because now I feel like I've had to, I don't want to say dumb down, but I've had to tame who I am in many regards, right? And so, yeah, it would have never worked out.
And it's interesting you say that, because there's this other misconception that it only takes love. Relationship is all about love. Once you have love is enough. And you and I have come to recognize that our relationship, it needs to be built on more than just love. Mm-hmm. When did you and I realize that it had to be built on more than just love? Our relationship, our marriage.
So I'm trying to think if there was a defining moment, or if there was an event or something. And I don't know. Maybe you could tell me there was an event, and maybe when you say it, it'll spark something in my mind. But I also think it depends on how you define love, right? Now, if we define love as Christ defines love, as being sacrificial, mm-hmm. then we can get and say, okay, love is enough. But in the reality, the reality of it is, we aren't Christ. So we oftentimes define love as a feeling, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes, what happens when I ain't feeling you this week, or this month, or this year? What happens when we ain't feeling each other? When we're no longer in love, right? And so in many regards, love can be enough, depending on how you define love, right? But love is also, let's back up. We oftentimes think of love as a feel-good thing. Oh, it's oh man, it feels right. Or it's the sweet spot, right? I'm gonna get into the sweet spot in a second. But oftentimes love is, we confuse love with affirmation, right? And so if we look at our child, because we love her, we don't affirm certain things. Now, the world says, if you love me, you accept me as I am. Yeah, that's difficult, right? If you love me, you'll tolerate everything I'm doing. No, if I love you, I have to tell you when you're wrong. If it, because I love my child, I can't let her play with my drill. Even though she may want to build a whatever she wants to build, a dollhouse, I don't know, clubhouse, whatever. She may want to use my circular saw for a really, really, really good reason. But because I love her, I can't allow it. Right? So I don't know. What was there a moment when we said, "Hey"?
Well, so also keep in mind when you and I got together, it was later on in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were a lot more mature. So I think we already knew that it would take more than just love. Love wasn't enough. And then I think we learned, you and I, early on that it's definitely going to take more than just love because, you know, we've gone through some things together. And love is not enough. What my husband and I are not saying is that love isn't necessary, because love is very necessary. It's just not necessary by itself. It needs more than just love. And so for he and I, the love was very necessary, because when the Bible talks about love being the thing that you know covers a multitude of sin, like love was that truly sacrificial element that was necessary for forgiveness to take place, that was necessary for patience to grow, that was necessary for allowing the space for someone to mature and grow beyond just an age factor. Like love was necessary for he and I, because there were some things that we had to go through that would push against that love, or that would show how strong or how weak our love is, or that would make our love even stronger. But in addition to that, it was almost intent and purpose is what truly helped where love didn't, or where love would have, where love wouldn't have. Like love got us so far. Okay, like I said, love is necessary. Alone, it's not enough, but it's necessary. Love will get you so far, and then purpose and intent, like being intentional about doing some things, about thinking some certain ways, is what has continued to get us to where we are now. So I don't know if there was one thing or one moment, one event, but there was definitely just this realization that if I didn't love you, I wouldn't be here. Let's make that clear.
True that.
But it's because I love. And then, like you say, loving you didn't mean that I had to accept all of who you are and what you did when I met you. But love is, man, I see such a greater man than where you are right now. And it may take me being that person to bring out that greatness in you, as opposed to allowing you to just kind of stay average or mediocre. And here we are 5 years later, and you're this super extraordinary guy that I've had a little, you know,
a little hand in that,
a little role. Yes.
It's funny as you say that. For those who don't know, I've already said I'm from Chicago, but my favorite genre of music is country. And there's this song, and one of the lines from the song, he says, I'm hard to love. He said, I don't make it easy. I couldn't do it if I stood where you stood. Right. So I knew very early on, like I was hard. I was probably hard to love. And so I appreciate you loved me through that. But I also think that's also the good thing, or the interesting thing about love, right? Is when you couple love and purpose, then you can push through certain things because you've already recognized that, okay, whatever is happening is bigger than you and I together, right? or the purpose for the thing is greater than what we're going through in this moment. And so I've mentioned this to you before, and I'll just say it right here and be transparent, is that as she's already mentioned, like, we got married a little bit later in life. I was close to 50. And I know y'all probably saying, oh, this guy only looks 35 himself. I know. And so I remember like sitting, I sat on the edge of the bed at day 4. I'm like, oh my goodness, I made a mistake.
Day 4 of
being
married.
Day 4, I'm like, oh my goodness, I've made a mistake. And not that I've made a mistake, because I'll be honest, like mentally, I believed I was ready for marriage. Again, I'm close to 50. I've done all the things that I think I'm going to do as far as, just be in my single life, right? So, time to settle down, find a good one, yada, yada, so forth and so on. But there's some physiological things that happen with the body too. And so for me, I think because we dated long distance, you're in Jacksonville, Florida, I'm in Chicago. I say this jokingly, but also very sincere. Like, I thought our dating relationship was almost perfect. I lived here, you lived there. I saw you the right amount of time, then I didn't see you the right amount of time. Right? We'd see each other 3-4 days and boom, you were gone. So for me, something happened mentally for me at day 4. I'm like, oh,
I'm not leaving, sir.
Right. I'm like, oh,
I'm here forever.
She's here forever. Sweet baby Jesus. And I don't know how to describe what was happening with me. It was, and I've never been addicted to narcotics, but it felt like maybe my body was going through withdrawals, and I'm recognizing, hey, this new thing is happening. And it also meant somebody being in my space all the time. Right. And I remember like dropping you off at the airport when you were going back home, either late Sunday night or early Monday morning, so you can get back to work. And I would drop you off and I would rush to get back home just so I could be alone. And then you'd call as soon as you get past security. And oh, do you miss me yet? And I'm like, and you're like, and probably the first couple of times I said, oh, yes. After a while, I said, listen, stop asking me that. Don't make me lie to you. Don't make me lie to you. Like, you've been gone 15 minutes. No, I don't miss you yet. Give me a few days, maybe I will.
Guys, this time I'm missing him like crazy, and I'm still in Chicago at the airport.
And I'm trying to get
about
back
2 days
home
with him, and I'm like, I miss you. Do you miss me?
I'm trying to get back home so I can stretch across the bed to be by myself. I'm a single guy, so it's usually I got a little spot in the bed I was laying in. All my clothes were on the other side of the bed. So there were certain things that I enjoyed about being single, and that was one of those things was being alone. Coming home and nobody was here. Coming home and it was super quiet. Those things I enjoyed. And so at day 4, I realized, oh, life as I knew it is over. OVA, over, boo. So there was a new normal that I had to get adjusted to. And one of the I don't want to go too far left, but one of the good pieces of advice that a friend of mine had given me, he said, marriage says for better or worse. He says, sometimes your worst might come before your better. And sometimes your worst might be worse than you thought.
Do you think that was us?
Here's what I would hope. I understand that there will be more hiccups that come along, but I certainly hope that our worst times are behind us, right? But I also think you and I had something else going on that I think we recognized very early on that we didn't have all the answers. So because we didn't have all the answers, and the reality of it is we sucked at communicating with each other. Like I'm not picking up what you putting down and you ain't picking up what I'm putting down. And we're talking past each other. And we realize, no, okay, we're talking maybe at each other, but not to each other. But the other person isn't receiving what I'm trying to say, even though I'm trying to be honest in what I'm saying. And so I don't want to. It wasn't long, boo, but I want to say. I'm saying within 30 days. It might not have been within 30 days, but I guarantee within the first 90 days we was in counseling.
Oh no, I'll tell you exactly when. But yep, within 60 days.
We were sitting on somebody's couch.
Days, we were sitting on somebody's couch, having a conversation. I had already searched on what the process of annulment is, because of course within the first year of marriage it's different than just a divorce. It's an annulment of what that process is in Chicago or Illinois. And yeah, I remember saying to my husband, if you and I are to make it, we gotta go see somebody. And literally it's true that he said, I wouldn't say I thought I had all the answers. I just thought that I was well prepared for whatever may come up. I watched my mom and dad have an amazing marriage of 34, almost 35 years before they passed. I watched my aunt and uncle have the same 32, 33 years of an amazing marriage. Other people who we knew had great, long-lasting marriages. Even if they had issues, nonetheless, they made it to over 30 years. And so I'm like, man, I can't wait to experience this love and this.
Boy, I can't make it in 30 days.
And I'm like, man, I got married and here I am at 30 days wondering, okay, so how do I get out of this? But when I said, and the reason why I said, if we are to make it, it is imperative that you and I talk to somebody now within the first 60 days of us getting married, was because it was important enough for me to do all that I can, to exhaust all resources, to exhaust all of my fight before I give up, because I knew that beyond just love, like I loved you, but at that moment it was very hard to like you. But I knew that when I married you, it was beyond just love and like. It was very, very purpose driven. It was a choice. Like love is a choice, not a feeling, like you mentioned earlier. And so for me, it was a choice. So every day I was choosing to be with you, but I knew that I needed two things. I needed instructions, or I needed assistance on how to use the tools that I already have in my toolbox. And I needed new tools that I didn't have, because God knows I never thought that I would meet some of the challenges that I did with you when we got married. So I had no clue. So I was ill prepared, but I was smart enough as a social worker and counselor myself to know that I can't get myself out of this one by myself. And so you and I did counseling within the first 60 days. And here we are. We've been married almost 5 years. And here we are still in counseling. The first 60 days, for the first couple of years, counseling was imperative. Counseling was a repair mechanism. Counseling was we need this or else we ain't know what's going to happen type of situation. Now we go to counseling for maintenance. Now we go to counseling and we look forward to going because it's to just sharpen the tools that we've been using. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see the process and the progress of the work that you and I continue to put in, because we choose to love each other every day. And we understand that purposes are the foundation of it all. So can love thrive without purpose? I think it needless to say, we have beat that horse dead. No, it cannot. I don't care how long people think that there's no purpose needed and I can just love him and we can be together for 10 years. But I can promise you, we've seen people, you've heard of people be married for 25, 30, 40 years and then still decide that we better off apart. And they still divorce. And so, we don't want to be a part of that statistic of persons who decide that this isn't going to work together anymore because the love has gone dry and that's all we had to begin with. And so the other question is, will marriage automatically align you with your purpose?
No, I don't know if it will automatically align you with it, right? And so I often think let's look at it from a mechanical standpoint. Our truck right now needs an alignment. I know that as I'm driving it, if I let the steering wheel go, it'll veer to the left, right? Now, I know it's for a couple of reasons though, right? Now I'm gonna tell myself because it's been a little lazy. Number one, I know that the driver's side front tire has a slow leak in it. So every 2 or 3 weeks I have to put air in it. All right. So I can keep putting air in it and I'll keep functioning until it goes flat, right? So even if I take it, but I also know this, it needs new tires. So even if I take it to the shop to get an alignment, the alignment isn't going to be to perfection because there's still something missing. I need new tires. So what happens when you get new tires? So if we go to the shop, not only do we get new tires, they then have to balance those tires. After the tires are balanced, then you can get an alignment. Because if they do an alignment without doing the other two steps, like, hey, this alignment isn't going to last. Because the reason your car is out of alignment is because you have these other issues, right? And so being married isn't naturally going to put you in alignment if you don't have the other
That's
things done
good.
right?
Way to bring it all full circle, baby.
So those things have to be done first. Now, if those things are already done, then alignment becomes easier. Now, it doesn't change the fact that they're still going to need preventive maintenance, right? We're still going to need, in a couple of, in 6 months, in order to keep the alignment, we're going to need to rotate these tires. 6 months after that, we're going to need to go in and do that. So in order to keep the alignment, there's some preventive maintenance you have to do, right? So I think that's what the counseling is, that you just talked about now, right? That's the preventive maintenance. Now, we could try and patch it together and, we can go to a used tire shop and get one tire at a time every time, that tire gets a hole, which I've done because I didn't want to buy 4 new tires. But if we're talking about truly having it in alignment, there are certain precursory things that need to be done, not just to get it in alignment, but things you have to do now to maintain the alignment.
Speaking of alignment, but also going back to counseling, I would like for you as a man to speak to the other man that's listening as it pertains to, because what I didn't have to do was, as a wife and woman, I didn't have to drag my husband to counseling. But there are some men who are not interested in counseling, or their women have to drag them if they are going. They don't want to go, and it could just be for various reasons. But can you speak as a man to other men who may be against counseling? Because I think counseling is very crucial. I mean, not and whether you call it counseling, whether you call it a marriage therapist, I think it is crucial for you as an individual. Like, there's individual counseling, but there's also couples counseling, marriage counseling that may not be we are fixing a problem, but like you say, preventative maintenance, like checking in, making sure that the tools are there and that they're always sharp. So yeah, speak to the men that are listening.
I think, and I'll use it from a man's perspective, right? I don't care what sport we're talking about. All right. Whether it's, let's just use basketball or football, for example. We could probably say maybe the best quarterback in the NFL right now is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes still has a head coach. He has an offensive coordinator, and he has a quarterback coach, right? He's the best guy doing the game with playing that position, but he still has a coach because the outside coach says, hey, on your 3 steps drop, I noticed that you do this with your left leg. If we straighten that out, this can happen. So the purpose of the coach is to, because you're in the game, So you only see what you see in the game. The coach helps you in practice, so when you get in the game, it flows a little more, a little better, a little more flawless. But he also sees your blind spots. He sees the things that you don't see. He sees the mechanics of your body. So I didn't have a problem going to counseling for a couple of reasons. Number one, I recognized I was messing up early, right? So you have to recognize that you're part of the problem. You have to be willing to say, okay, let me fix some things about me. The second thing for me, what I enjoyed about counseling is it gave me here's what the world doesn't know. That you can out-talk me every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Intellectually, you'll probably run circles around me if we got into a verbal altercation, right? What counseling did was it gave me a space where I can go in and talk, and I knew
a safe space.
Guy wasn't, even if it wasn't safe, but I knew this guy wasn't going to let you interrupt my thoughts. Because oftentimes this is all of us in general, we'll have a conversation, and the moment someone says something that you disagree with, you'll interject. And you're trying to interject because you're now trying to prove that particular person wrong in that area, right? And so counseling gave a spot where, okay, I'm going to be able to say what's on my mind, and this guy isn't going to let her beat me up about it because you tried. And so the fewer times you tried, he would interrupt and say, whoa, wait a minute now. Hold on. We're not going down that road. Or he'll say, okay, let's address what he said. And then vice versa. So now it's a referee, so to speak, right? That allows us to verbally joust, right? Without trying to draw blood, but someone who can set the parameters up where there's a space where you can communicate is going to be safe. And I also think, I don't know if it was intentional. I don't know if it didn't happen, or I don't know if when we brought up things in counseling, at least that particular topic was resolved before we left. I don't know if that happened.
Most times.
But there was never, here's what was beneficial. I can't recall there ever being a time where I said something in counseling, and then later on we got home, he was like, oh, so what about, and you grab, well, I did, yep, grab an air. Because what it would have said to me is, oh, counseling is safe. I'm not going anymore. Or when I do go, I'm not going to fully participate. Because oftentimes women will say men aren't vulnerable or men aren't communicative. When I find that not to be true. Exactly. Oftentimes what happens is we were vulnerable and we said something, and then you mishandled the feeling or you mishandled his emotions in that moment. Then he says to himself, oh yeah, I ain't talking to her no more.
Hey, purpose seekers. If this conversation has you thinking about your purpose, what it is, how to find it, and how to truly live it, then I have something just for you. Introducing the Purpose Finder Formula. And you have the free access to my 20-minute training designed to help you uncover your purpose and to start living it with confidence. No fluff, no guesswork. It's clear, practical, step-by-step guide to finding meaning and gaining clarity and direction. Your purpose is calling. Are you ready to answer? Head over to www.charissamonroe.com/Purpose Finder Formula. Enter your info and I'll send it straight to your inbox. Imagine waking up every day knowing your life has meaning, impact, and joy. That's what awaits you. So don't wait. Grab your free training today. Now, let's get back to the episode. Let me pull back the curtain here for a little bit, just to kind of be truly transparent with those listening, because that's what happened. So we would get to counseling, and my husband would have all these things to say. He would have all these expressions. I mean, he would be able to express how he's feeling. He would express what he's thinking. Mind you, these are the things. These are the same expressions that I want him to tell me, or I want him to have with me at home. And at home, he's a. And so I would go to counseling, or we would go to counseling and we would leave, or even in counseling, I would say, so why couldn't you tell me this? Or why, when I tell you I want you to be more communicative with me, why aren't you? Make a very long story short, it turns out that he truly felt safer in counseling. He felt safer, or he felt that there was a space where his entire thought would be expressed, it would be heard, and then it wouldn't be thrown back in his face, which is what I guess I was doing. I didn't recognize that. Um, and so counseling was his. So if nothing else, I looked forward to us going to counseling weekly, because at least I knew that for 6 days I wouldn't hear nothing, but on day 7 I would be able to hear, okay, what my husband is feeling,
Mm-hmm.
how he is thinking, because these are the things that I wanted to know as his wife. Make a very, very, again, long story short, here we are now, years on the other side of that. And my husband is so much more open. He's so much more communicative. He's so much more expressive. He's so much more vulnerable with me, with or without the counselor present. And to the women listening, allow me to interject and say, is because I counseling was important enough for us to go, and then I took everything that the counselor would advise and recommend, and I would apply it. I would see where I faulted, where my fault was in what was going wrong and what needed to be repaired, and I would do better. I would do better for me, as opposed to trying to change him. I would say, no, Sharissa, you yourself need to make some changes. And so I would do that. And in doing that, it made the space for him more safe. It made it more sound. It made it more inviting. And so he would open up. And so now we're at a place where we don't have to have our therapist present for either of us to express or to truly listen, or know that you let him say it, but don't bring it up again. But that took some work, took some learning. Also, women, when you have a man who may not be interested in going to counseling, and honey, I'm glad you inspired the men that may be on the fence with counseling. But to the women who have men that are on the fence, dragging them won't get you anywhere. Pushing them won't get you anywhere. Because there was points where my husband, for some reason, was it that you fell off, baby, or you just didn't want to go, or you felt nothing was like there was points where he didn't go for whatever reason, and I don't even know why he didn't go. And in my mind, I'm thinking, we need to keep going. I don't know why you're not going. And I don't know if he wasn't going because, he felt like it wasn't changing. It wasn't making changes. Or I don't know if he felt like everything was fine. He was fixed, if you will. And I'm like, are we in the same marriage? Because we still need to be going. Instead of me dragging him, instead of me making him, instead of me being upset at him not going, you know what I did? I kept going. So now it went from couples counseling to an individual counseling, because I recognized that I cannot change this man. I cannot make him into anything. I cannot make him do anything. However, I have 100% responsibility and full control over my feelings, my emotions, my responses, my everything. Like, I can make changes because I'm also a part of this puzzle. I'm also a part of this dance, if you will. It takes two to tango, like they say. And so I still have to go because I needed to make sure that when he is still being him, that I am responding in certain ways. I'm allowing myself to not feel or feel certain ways. And that I still didn't know how to do by myself. And so I still went to counseling, and I went over and over by myself. Every week I would go. Let me tell you guys, if
She
I
needed
didn't,
it. She needed it.
really,
Yeah.
that's what we're
Okay.
doing. Hold on. I kept going. And then after a while, out of the blue, he was like, maybe next time you go to counseling, I'll go with you. I said, what? You're going to go with me? I was happy. And then he came on his own free will. That's a beautiful feeling. That is a beautiful feeling. I'm sorry, honey. Go ahead.
I'll say this: no man wants to feel like he's forced to do something, right?
Uh huh.
You're
Uh
gonna,
huh.
but this is that whole idea of us all having dominion, and so no one wants to be made or told what to do. Here's what it was for me, and I don't. It was a conversation that happened, and I don't know the exact words, but the idea was you had said something to the effect of, "Oh, we're going to counseling, and it ain't working for you," and so now I'm saying, "Oh, we're going to counseling because you want to fix me." Right? And so your attitude was because if he gets fixed, then the marriage will be great. Like, oh, and so I felt like, oh, you're going because you're looking for a result. And so because you don't see the result, you don't think it's being fixed. All the time, I know that I have mentally changed. I have physically, I knew that I had changed how I thought about you and how I thought about our marriage and all those things. But you weren't seeing any maybe tangible results. So you'd be like, oh, it ain't working. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, I got one for you. So I ain't going. And so then
He didn't go, Jack.
I
He
did.
did not go
It was
anymore.
probably a couple months, probably maybe 3 or 4 months. I mean, I ain't going. And then, but because you kept going, that said to me, oh, she recognizes there are still some things in that she may have an area where she's trying to figure it out. So that then shifted from, okay, she's trying to fix me to she's now trying to address something in her.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm more willing to go back now. But also because there was a change in how you responded to me.
Yes. I was
And
applying
so,
some stuff. Uh-huh.
and I think, we talked about partly because, we had read a book, Love and Respect by Dr. Sarah and Emerson Edrick. And we'd probably read that. I don't know, maybe we read it twice. I know we definitely read it once, and we went to 2 of their
Conferences.
live. Here's the other thing too. The reality of it is, like, you have to be willing to go where the help is, and that might not be in your backyard. And so they were in Texas, and we flew to Texas to attend one of their conferences. And then another time they came a little bit closer to us. I think they were in Michigan. And so we went to Michigan for the conference. And even though we'd read the book, even though we'd sat through one of their conferences, we needed a second one. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't be opposed to going to a third, fourth, or fifth one. Number one, because of the information. 2, because how they explained it. And just to make it short and sweet, it talks about a man's number one desire is respect. Well, a man's number one need is respect. A woman's number one need is love. And so because I am acting unloving, she will respond disrespectful. And because I feel disrespected, I would respond unloving. And he talks about this idea of the crazy cycle, right? And so I'm recognizing that, because I'm saying to her, oh, you disrespectful. But I'm saying she's disrespectful, but she's disrespectful because I am also unloving to her. And so one of the things he talks about is that I am called to be loving even to a disrespectful wife. And the wife is called to be respectful even to an unloving husband.
And that's hard.
That's
it's
hard.
Hard to respect someone who is completely like misloving,
unrespectable, huh?
Misloving you, and it's hard to love someone who is disrespecting you to your core. But that is not it. It was not easy.
But he also talked about language, right? And earlier, I said, we weren't picking up what the other were laying down.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things he talks about is how we hear and see things, right? And so it's like the idea we can both say the same thing, but mean something totally different by what we said. And he uses the example, if I say I don't have anything to wear, that means I don't have anything clean to wear. If you say I don't have anything to wear, that means you don't have anything new to wear. We both said the same thing, but meant something totally different by it. So part of it is understanding what the other person means when they say what they say. So, but those things have to be taught.
Yeah. We've definitely, there's been a process. Like there's a process to everything, guys. And when my uncle, Dr. Richard Pinder, says trust the process, like truly you trust the process. And even in a marriage. And I want to segue, honey, to power struggle. And that power struggle in marriages where there's that silent battle of leadership in relationship. And one of the questions that people ask often is, who leads when both individuals are purpose driven? And so, of course, when you and I met and got married, we were on the other side of 35 and 45. And so we were kind of like, I met you doing your thing purpose related, and you met me doing my thing purpose related. You know, I was traveling, I was speaking, and I was working part time. You were, you know, still doing your policing, but you still had your nonprofit. So we were both like on our purpose journey, if you will, making waves in the earth, influential people, still are to this day. But there is still a chain of command, if you will, as it pertains to leadership. And who to the question, who leads when both are purpose driven?
Depends on what's being done at the time, right? And so it depends on what we're talking about. So there's a element of leadership in the home, but there's also an element of leadership in work, right? And the idea that we are both equally equipped in our areas of gifting. So who leads depends on what's happening at the time. I think the great thing about you and I is that there's never a competition, right? There's never a place where, you know, I need to be out front. So like I love watching you do your thing. So I'm 100% okay with carrying your laptop or sitting in the back or whatever needs to be done for you in that moment. But then the opposite of that is true as well. When I'm out doing my thing, you are the supporting role. And sometimes it's a pendulum that swings back and forth. Sometimes you're the lead actor, sometimes you're the supporting role.
That's good. And that is so true for us.
I'm going to go back to using sports again, being a Chicago fan, and I look at, when you look at a lot of sports teams, what makes many sports teams great, and I'm going to use the example of my beloved Chicago Bulls, the old Bulls from the 90s. What made them so great is that, let's do this. Michael Jordan was always Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan needed Scottie Pippen to be great, though. And when he got Scottie Pippen, his greatness rose to another level. But what made that team great, when you talk about Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, Ron Harper, depending on who's the center time, Luke Longley, Will Purdue, depending on what you're talking about, is everyone knew their position. Everyone knew their role. And no one tried to be something more than what they were. He said, the reason we're great is because I do this particular thing well. Dennis said, what I do is I grab rebounds. The Bulls would not have won if Dennis would have tried to be a scorer. Scottie says, okay, what I do well is I play defense and I'm going to give you 20 points a game. The Bulls wouldn't have done well if he said, you know what, I want to be the star and let me get my 30 a game. So oftentimes, but we see the exact opposite, right? Sometimes we see star-studded teams with 3 and 4 superstars, but they can't win because everybody wants to be the man.
Everybody wants to be the star.
Nobody's willing to say, you know what, I'm willing to be the supporting actor right now.
Mm-hmm. And that is true. That is true for us. I must say, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to me flowing in my purpose, in my work, in my field of influence and gifting. Like, this man is my number one supporter, my number one cheerleader. There's never this competition and this fight or battle between, who is in front at this time, and vice versa. When it's time for his nonprofit to shine and him to be the best CTA that there is, chief translation officer or CTO for the boys, like, I am in full support mode. Um, and that's how we have done it. And I don't know if it was a conversation that we had or it's just an understanding that we understood that we have purposes that are aligned, even though they may have been individual, but you come together and they truly become shared. Like, that's what I would describe two personal purposes coming together, and now you're sharing it. You're sharing, but you're sharing it in supporting each other. Because then the next question is, how do you support each other's dreams without losing yourself? And I have to stay true to who I am, and my husband has to stay true to who he is, but we can still support each other. Like, there is a way that he supports me that I will never try and change, because then there are other people who may support me differently, but there's a way that he can do it that other people can't. And there's a way that I'm going to support him that there's in that way other people can't support him that way. But I'm still going to be who I am. I'm still going to have my target audience. I'm still going to have the way that I serve my gift, and so is he. And so, how do you, like, if you had to give advice on how do you support me, or how do you just give that support and not lose yourself, what would be your perspective?
I think first, at the end of the day, if you aren't understanding your own purpose, it's going to become very difficult to support somebody else's, right? Because that's when, again, the competition or jealousy sets in. But I also think, like, you have to know who the other person is, right? You used to teach that lesson. That's not me, right? From the Game of Thrones, like, that's not me. And so knowing who the other person is also means knowing who they're not, right? And oftentimes we're trying to here's the great thing, because I mentioned about being the coach, right? And so there are times when if I'm sitting in the back or I'm in the audience and I watch you do something, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Well, that was good. But next time, maybe you should say it like this. Next time, position yourself like this. And so it's allowing the other person to be them, telling them something that can tweak what they are without changing who they are. And I think that simply comes from, wanting the absolute best for the other person. But again, knowing who they are, but not trying to change who they are. So if I think that would probably be my answer.
Mm-hmm. And even as we talk about leadership, like he said, it depends on what aspect you're talking about. There's in the home itself, but then there's also on the purpose perspective. But I think even in the home, like, you and I have set, and every household is different. So I'm not saying that our household is the way you do it, but according to the biblical principle, like, you and I set to where, you are the leader of the home, of, myself as the wife, the children, and then above you is that of God himself. And so, no matter how much of a leader I may be in the world, outside the home, externally, in my home, the leader and king of my house is yourself. And that we have understood. We've come to that understanding, which is not a suppressing role on your behalf either. I remember when you and I were dating, and keep in mind, you met me traveling, you met me speaking on stages, you met me working. I mean, like, you met me full blown purpose journey. And one of the things that you wanted to know as a husband, but also as a man, whether or not you wanted this to work, you wanted to know that if you came to me one day and said, baby, I think, you've been on the go every week, you're gone, every month you're gone, you're doing this. and we want to support you, but I think right now I need you to pull back and just kind of slow down. I would like you to be home a little longer, or a little more with the kids, or a little more with me. Like, I would like for you to just kind of be home instead of just going, going, going. You wanted to know if that would be okay and how would I respond to that. And you want to know if I would say yes, absolutely. And I said, absolutely. If you came to me as my husband, as leader of the home, and you said, look, I need you to sit down for a little bit because you're moving too much, would I? And I said, absolutely yes. And I remember you telling me how major of a role that played, and you truly deciding, okay, yeah, she's the
Right.
one.
Because it wasn't, because even when I asked the question, well, two things. When I asked the question, it wasn't that it wasn't that I would want you to. The question is, would you be willing to? So for me, even if you wouldn't consider being willing to, would be problematic for me. But I'd also had experience in that area. In a previous dating relationship, it's like, oh no, this is what I do, and you need to get on my program. And I'm like, yeah, there's no man alive who can do that. Meaning, there's I would explain, like, no man can drop everything he's doing every time you need to go X, Y, and Z. Because if he can do that, that means he's not living on his own purpose. That means he's following you around. And so, even we had some conversation like, hey, there are going to be sometimes I cannot go with you. There are going to be sometimes I cannot travel with you. Now, I will try as much as I can, but sometimes I'm not going to be able to. Are you going to be okay? And so once we had some conversations, and one of the things I appreciate is that when we try and put our calendars together, like, hey, okay, this is what I have going on, and these are some travel dates that I have. Now I have to look at my schedule because, again, I still got to punch somebody's clock. I got to say, okay, when am I off that week? Okay, can I? Because what I said is I can't keep taking off work, boo. I can't keep taking off every week. I said, okay, so it was like, okay, can I move my off days? Can I change this? Can I add this? And so we found ways to make it work for traveling for both of us. But then there are sometimes I'm like, hey, this convention is in town. We can't take off work. This protest is going on. We can't take off work. And so you being understanding in that area meant a lot. So yeah, but also for me, it took, because early on, I would take your questioning me as a challenge. And the moment I feel challenged, now I'm on a defense. And so then I said, okay, I think I started changing the way I said things. I would say, hey, this is what I think we need to do as a family. This is the direction I think we need to head. This is the thing that I want to tackle next. And you're like, okay, cool. Explain it to me. And so now I'm recognizing that you aren't saying no, don't do it. You're saying, hey, help me understand why you want to do it. And even if after it's all been said and done, because many times you've not necessarily agreed with the direction I want to go, you're like, okay, well, I trust your judgment. I trust your leadership. Okay. And then that's what we do. And so not necessarily feeling that I have to fight or battle you in situations then makes it easier.
Have we had any disagreements about purpose in the relationship?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Not that I can recollect.
No disagreements. I have to say that we haven't had any disagreements as it pertains to purpose. I think we have understood. We've had to come to a place where we understand that each other, like we have callings on our lives. And one of the questions that you and I were talking about earlier in preparation for this was, can you be with someone where there are two different callings? Mm-hmm. And our perspective was a little different, because you pretty much said no. Like, if the callings are not aligned, But can two people with different callings still align? When you and that's us talking about purpose and compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think?
Yay and nay. All right. And so I don't want to try and dodge the question, but it depends, right? It depends on how far apart these callings are, right? Meaning this, I use the example. I say, well, I can't be a law enforcer and you be a lawbreaker. Like those are polar opposites. They can't go together, right? But you can be in your purpose, right? And say maybe one of the giftings in your purpose is you are a very strong administrator, right? And so I can have I build houses. Say that's what I do. All right. Your administration that you use in your purpose of coaching and mentoring and personal development can help me in my construction area. Now, I'm using that as an example simply to say that there are gifts and talents and skills that you have that are key for you that can benefit me, right? So as long as each other has areas of gifting that can benefit the other, even if their purposes are not aligned per se, then I think the relationship can work. Because now the iron is still sharpening the iron. We are still beneficial to each other, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes, it does. And alignment is so key. It's so key, and you have to have the conversations early. So the question of how do you have the conversation about vision and values and future plans in your relationship? First of all, have them early. Like my husband and I had them early, and he is so much of a leader at heart. I met him in December of 2018. By March of 2019, we were still kind of initially talking, do we even want to start dating at this point? As far as he's concerned, we were already dating
Since our first date.
so within
We've been together since our first date. Boo.
so March, so within 3 months of us meeting and dating, he had already sent to me his family vision, like what he has as a man, as a leader, for the vision of his family, whoever that is coming in. And when I say, guys, this is like 3 months into us talking, this was everything to me, because he didn't wait until we got together to then now figure out what that vision was going to be. I would have been coming into a situation where a vision was already built. Now, I brought this up to my husband a few hours ago as we were talking about and preparing for this episode, and he had no clue. He couldn't remember. He was like, "You gotta send me that again because I've fallen off." But it's funny that I knew, and this is one thing that my dad explains about the difference between a man and a woman. I knew exactly where to go in my email. I knew how far back to go in my email. I knew exactly what folder to go looking in to find this vision that this man said this would be our family vision 3 months into us dating, because it was important to me that I can go back to this every year, couple times a year, and look at what our core tenets are, or look at our core values. Do these things still stand? And I was reading it over with him this morning, and he was like, "Man, you got to send that to me because I've fallen off." And he didn't say it. And I love that I didn't take it as, "Oh, really? Well, come on, you're supposed to be leading." No, it was just, here is the purpose for our home. Let's revisit it. Let's make sure that we are still aligned with this. And so this was something that he and I discussed and talked about very early on. And I had to make sure that the vision that he was setting for our family, which would be now my family, was going to be aligned with the vision that I would have, that I would want to have for my family or my children coming up with us as parents. And it was a beautiful family vision. Our core values are Our core tenets are still the same as I look at it right here on the screen. Our values are still the same. Um, do we need to go and revisit it? Do we need to look at it and make sure that we continue to strengthen in these values? Absolutely. But it's still at the core. Like, I can still go back and say, my husband gave this to me 5, 6 years ago and said, this is our vision. Can you get on board? Like, that really was it. Can you get on board? And I said, yes, I can get on board. So you want to have those conversations early about vision, values, future. Women, especially, you want to be asking the man, what's your vision for your life? What's your vision for the family? Well, what would your vision be for us as a unit? What are your future plans? What are our future plans? And so he and I talked about plans. I had a plan in my mind when my husband met me. I was on my way leaving the country of the United States by myself and said, this is where I want to go. And then he met me and he asked, I told him what I wanted to do. He wanted to be with me. And I remember him asking, he said, would you wait for me? Now, if you ask him this now, he would try and deny it.
I said it. I remember. I said it.
But he said, would you wait for me? And I said, absolutely. Absolutely. And I trusted that me waiting for him wasn't then going to turn into, ha ha ha, we're not going. I just wanted to make sure you know exactly. But that's not the case. And so we're still, our plans is still to wait for him and then make that move. And so I was able to trust him at his word. And so it is very important to have such deep conversations.
I'm chuckling because, like, I remember, having that or creating that vision and mission. And again, I was strong into the teachings then, because I was preparing for my wife, right? And this is before I even knew you. I was preparing for my wife. And one of the things that I had learned in the teachings was one of the ways to try to maybe mark or assess who your person is simply present them with your vision, right? Because a woman is called to be a helpmeet to you. If you present her with your vision, with what you're doing, if she's your helpmeet, whatever that thing is will spark in her to make her naturally start helping you doing that. And that's kind of what you did. I said, hey, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. And without me asking you, you started assisting me in the things that I said I was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's part of the vetting process. Let me present this thing to you. If she's a help me, she'll start helping me. And then that's what happened. Now, let's be honest, I'd done that before and I got a lot of pushback. And so my vision wasn't necessarily for you. It's for my family and whoever the woman is going to be who helps me create that family. And so oftentimes I think.
So it was for me. You can say it.
This is okay.
Let's get that on record.
Let me back up. I did not have Charissa in mind. Like, I didn't even know you when that thing was written out. I had my future wife in mind, and you just so happened to come along and fit the bill, boo.
Good.
Right?
On record, guys. Y'all heard that?
I think it's important to have those things mapped out. So when you meet your person, if they are your person, then they fit right in, or, as you say, become aligned with the things that you're already doing, the vision that you already have. But here's the thing, as you talked about visiting it, that's what all corporations do, right? They generally have an annual board meeting and say, hey, is this still our mission? Is this still our vision? Are we doing things in alignment with the things that we said we're going to do? And if we aren't, we need to either, one, stop doing those things, or two, change our vision. Right? And so it's important as a family corporation that we go back to revisit the mission and vision, simply so we can make sure we're still in alignment.
Yes, absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, my person and I can talk about this all day, but we are gonna have to wrap it up here. Honey, if you can give one thing about your spouse, which just happens to be me, that inspires you, what would that be?
Hi, yi. We're talking on a personal, professional level. We're talking about.
Take it however you want.
All right. Here's what I love even more. Number one, you're a great mother. Um, and I want to be careful how I say this. He said, I'm not going to make it personal about you, but I'm from a man's perspective. Who you inspire me, you make me want to be a better person. Like you made me want to be a better husband. And I think for a man, when you attach yourself to that woman or that woman attaches herself to you, if she does not inspire you to be a better human being, not just for her, but a better human being for the world, yeah, she probably ain't your person. She might be a good fun time girl. She might be good, to hang out with, kick the bobos with. But yeah, she part time. You got to cut her loose because whoever you attach yourself to, if they're comfortable, and I'm not talking about pushing you, right? Because there's one thing to push you. Yeah, I think men don't really need pushing, right? We really just want encouragement and inspiration. And if a woman finds a way to do that, oh yeah, she's solid.
Great answer. Thank you, my love. One thing about you, as my husband, that inspires me. Oh, there's so many things. Is so I'm very big on family. Family is very, very big to me. My nuclear family, like my husband and my children, that's my unit, and then my external family, like family on the whole. And the way that you are with your own family, your brothers, your sisters, your nieces and nephews, and then also the way that you've allowed yourself to be around my family is very inspiring. And it's inspiring to me in that it just how you have accepted me and my family, it inspires me to even further accept you and yours. Because of course, when you get married, you don't only marry one person, you marry like them and their entire family. Whether people believe it or not, like you marry the whole shebang, if you will. Um, and sometimes some of the in-laws you people can't stand, but that hasn't been the case for us. You've made yourself so likable and relatable to my family that they don't look at you as the outsider. Like to my aunt, you are a nephew, close. I'm their son. To my cousins, you're your
I'm a
cousin.
lovable type guy. I mean,
Yes, we know you're a likable person. Yes, we've heard it. Absolutely, absolutely. And so, and the same for your family. Like it inspires me to love you and love your all of your family, your siblings, your nieces, your nephew, and then your extended family in the boys. Like we love our boys, is what we call them. So yes, I appreciate you for inspiring me in that regard. And then lastly, what is a big or the biggest lesson that you've learned in love and purpose?
ay, ay, ay. I think I'm going to steal this from Hubert a little bit. And he says something to the fact that you can't. How does he say it? But it's
You
some idea
can't
like
win
you can't win in life if you're not winning in the bedroom.
winning at home.
Right. You can't win in the boardroom if you're not winning in the bedroom. But it's not literally talking about the bedroom, but it reshaped how I saw myself as a husband and a father. Meaning you're only as effective outside of your home as you are in relation to inside of your home. And so my biggest lesson learned would be if I never did anything else right, I want to make sure I get marriage and fatherhood right. That is the indelible impression that you leave on the world. single most important job I'll ever have. And so I'm certainly trying to be more conscious of time spent at home, uh, the kind of time that's spent at home, the kind of time that's spent together. So that's my number one lesson.
That's a word. That's a word. Thank you, my love. Let me go on record and say that you are an amazing father, an even greater husband, and we are so happy to call you daddy. We're so happy to call you baby. We're so happy to just have you to ourselves and every now and again share you with the rest of the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, here you've seen behind the curtain, you've heard the highs, the challenges, but also the lessons that my husband and I have learned in our almost 5-year marriage, and it's been beautiful. We have a great marriage going, and we only strive to get even better. And we hope that to those that are listening, whether you're married, whether you're single, dating, even whether you're divorced and want to get back into the game, if you keep purpose at the center of your journey, like you are, that's half the battle. That is truly, truly half the battle. So we hope the best for you. We hope that our lessons, we hope that our stories have resonated with just one person. And you can apply some of the wisdom, some of the lessons that we have learned to your life individually, and then also as someone who's preparing for someone else, or you're in a marriage, and you get to be a better person for that person, and therefore you guys get to be better as a couple if you continue to keep purpose as the center. So make sure you share this episode with someone you think may need it, who may need inspiration, encouragement in their marriage and in their relationships. And remember, love is more than just an emotion. More than just an emotion. Purpose is more than just an emotion. You choose love every day. And when purpose and partnership align, literally everything changes. So, my love, I want to thank you again for being here on the pod. This will not be the last time, I promise you. We will have you on a lot more. I'm sure the people are going to love, love, love hearing from you and seeing who it is that supports me and everything that I do. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you being here. And as we truly close, I always end on one of my favorite notes, which is food. You know I love food. My clothes don't fit all the time. The mirror sometimes shows, and I don't care because food.
The mirror be lying, baby.
Food is everything. So, what is your favorite food and favorite restaurant?
I'm a simple guy, but I'd probably say chicken. But a good steak,
Fried chicken is that.
fried chicken. I can eat fried chicken 6 days a week. So my favorite restaurant is probably Catch 35 in Chicago.
I remember
And
it.
so I'm going to always go and get me the king crab leg and the filet mignon. That way I can have the best of both worlds, my crab and my steak.
Nice, nice, nice. Chicken, chicken, chicken. And Chicago does it well.
They do.
So awesome. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Well, until next time, everyone, keep discovering, keep building, and keep walking in your purpose. Been a great episode on the Purpose Finder podcast. I am your host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and I'll see you next time. Bye. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap on this episode of the Purpose Finder podcast. I hope today's conversation lit a fire within you, because purpose isn't just something you chase. It is something you live every single day. If this episode resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more people on their journey to purpose. Let's continue the journey together. Join the Purpose Finder community on Facebook for exclusive insights, tools, and a tribe of purpose-driven people just like you. And remember, the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. Your purpose isn't far off. It's already within you. It's time for you to uncover it and live it boldly. Until next time, stay inspired, stay intentional, and keep walking in your purpose.